The Buddha compares the journey to the crossing of a river. Most people remain on the bank, caught in the currents of worldly life, endlessly running after desires, attachments, and fleeting pleasures. They may be busy, energetic, and occupied, yet they do not venture into the deeper waters of insight, self-awareness, and freedom. Few, however, go beyond. These are the individuals who are attached to transient possessions, social recognition, or sensual pleasures. They measure life by what can be accumulated, what can be enjoyed, or what can be conquered. Yet the wise, few in number though they are, turn their attention to the deeper reality beyond superficial existence. They cultivate the mind, abandon attachment, and practice ethical conduct, meditation, and reflection. They enter the river with courage and mindfulness, navigating the currents of life without being swept away. Their aim is liberation, the freedom from suffering, and the realization of insight into the true nature of all phenomena. The story of the Buddha's own crossing of samsara exemplifies this verse. Born into royalty, surrounded by wealth, comfort, and indulgence, he could have remained on the bank of worldly life, enjoying transient pleasures. Yet he observed the suffering of beings, reflected on the impermanence of life, and resolved to go beyond. He left behind the attachments, comforts, and entanglements of palace life. He practiced mindfulness, meditation, and ethical restraint, eventually attaining enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Suffering, or the impermanence of life. They are distracted by sensory pleasures, social ambition, and attachments to fleeting gains. The wise, however, step courageously into the deeper waters of practice. They understand that freedom, clarity, and peace arise not from accumulation or indulgence, but from ethical living, mindful awareness, and insight into the nature of reality. Just as a boat requires skilled navigation to cross a wide river safely, the mind requires ethical grounding, meditation, and insight to traverse the currents of samsara. By associating with the virtuous and practicing diligently, the aspirant gradually moves from attachment and delusion toward freedom and awakening. In this way, the teaching encourages us to cultivate both inner discipline and supportive external conditions, combining effort with wisdom, courage with discernment, and reflection with ethical living. Daily life offers countless opportunities to practice the teachings of this verse. Every experience, whether of pleasure, pain, gain, or loss, becomes a chance to observe the mind, reflect on impermanence, and cultivate detachment and insight. The world offers many distractions, yet the aspirant who goes beyond uses these experiences as opportunities for learning, reflection, and meditation. By observing the mind's responses, cultivating mindfulness, insight, and moral integrity, serving as examples for all who seek freedom from suffering. Few are there amongst men who go beyond. The rest of mankind only run about on the bank. Dear listeners, the teaching of this 85th verse reminds us of the rarity of awakening. Most beings live their lives caught in habitual patterns, driven by desire, aversion, and ignorance. They measure success by external accomplishments, social status, and sensory satisfaction. Yet these are fleeting and impermanent, providing no lasting peace or clarity. The aspirant who goes beyond cultivates inner freedom, turning the mind away from superficial pursuits and toward insight and liberation. They practice ethical conduct, mindfulness, meditation, and reflection, gradually disentangling themselves from the cycles of craving and clinging that bind ordinary beings to suffering. The Buddha illustrates this teaching through the life of the chief disciples Sariputta and Moggallana. Both were exceptional in diligence, insight, and moral discipline. They recognized the limitations of ordinary worldly life and pursued rigorous training, ethical conduct, and meditation practice, and consistent effort. By stepping beyond the bank of worldly attachment, they became exemplars of virtue, insight, and awakening. Many obstacles lie in the way of those who wish to go beyond. Desire for wealth, recognition, and social approval can distract the mind and lead to attachment. Fear of loss, criticism, or failure can keep one tethered to the bank of worldly existence. Necessity of ethical grounding. To venture beyond, one must cultivate virtue in thought, speech, and action. Harmful deeds, lying, theft, or unwholesome behavior create obstacles that entangle the mind in suffering. The wise cultivate restraint, compassion, and generosity, laying the foundation for mental clarity and insight. Meditation deepens this understanding, allowing the mind to observe the arising and passing of thoughts, feelings, and sensations without attachment or aversion. Reflection reinforces ethical awareness and insight, gradually leading the practitioner from the bank of ethical living, mindful awareness, and deep understanding of the nature of reality. By cultivating these qualities, one gradually leaves the bank of samsara, moving into the waters of freedom, peace. Worldly life, preoccupied with fleeting pleasures, recognition, and attachment. Few cultivate virtue, mindfulness, and insight. Yet this path, though challenging, leads to freedom, clarity, and awakening. By practicing ethical restraint, meditation, reflection, and compassion, we gradually leave behind the attachments that bind ordinary beings to suffering. The few who go beyond become exemplars of virtue, wisdom, and serenity, guiding others by their example and inspiring hope for liberation. Let us cultivate this path in our daily lives. May we recognize the distractions of the world, observe our attachments and desires, and cultivate mindfulness, ethical conduct, and reflection. May we turn the mind inward, navigating the currents of life with clarity, courage, and insight. May we leave behind the bank of habitual clinging and venture into the deeper waters of liberation, following the path of virtue, wisdom, and compassion. By embodying this teaching, we bring peace and clarity into our lives and inspire all beings to seek the freedom that comes from insight and awakening. Few are there amongst men who go beyond. The rest of mankind only run about on the bank. Dear listeners, the Buddha's words are simple yet immeasurable in depth. When the world-honored one spoke of few who go beyond, he was not only describing numbers, he was describing the state of the human heart. For though countless beings are born with human form, very few awaken the aspiration to cross over. Fewer still persevere through the journey, and only those with steadfast diligence, unwavering faith, and clear vision truly reach the farther shore of liberation. The rest of mankind, the Buddha said, only run about on the bank. They build houses beside the river of existence. They decorate their lives with possessions, pleasures, and accomplishments. They speak endlessly of success and failure, of gain and loss, of love and hate. Yet, they do not see that the ground beneath their feet is impermanent, that the water of birth and death continues to rise and fall with every thought, every breath, every moment. The river of samsara. To go beyond is not to escape the world, but to awaken within it. The practitioner who goes beyond learns to see the truth within ordinary life. They understand that every sound, every sight, every encounter is a reflection of the mind. When anger arises, they do not blame others. When joy arises, they do not cling to it. When sorrow arises, they do not resist. They observe, breathe, and understand. Through understanding, they transcend. Through mindfulness, they are liberated. Dear listeners, the Buddha often compared his teachings to a raft. He said, "Monks, my Dharma is like a raft for crossing over, not for holding on to. The raft is built of the Eightfold Path: right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are not distant doctrines, they are daily practices. Every moment of mindfulness is a plank of that raft. Every act of compassion is a rope that binds it together. Every thought of wisdom is a firm knot that holds it steady against the waves of greed, hatred, and delusion. When we practice right view, we see life as it truly is, impermanent, interdependent, and empty of self. When we practice right speech, we use our words to bring peace, not harm. When we practice right action, we live ethically, protecting all beings. When we practice right effort, many admire it from the shore. They praise the teachings, they recite the verses, they even build temples to honor the Buddha. Yet, when the moment comes to let go of their attachments and step into the uncertain waters of practice, fear holds them back. They cling to the familiar bank, saying, "Not yet, not now. I am not ready." So they remain, running along the bank, building dreams and fears. Yet they also know that the farther shore exists, the shore of peace, of liberation, of nirvana. The current of life may test their resolve, yet each mindful breath, each compassionate act. Dear listeners, when one begins to cross, there is fear. But within that fear lies the seed of awakening. The Buddha taught that suffering itself is the doorway to liberation. Without it, for the sweetness of the Dharma. Thus, the river is not our enemy, it is our teacher. Its waves remind us that nothing is permanent. Its currents teach us that clinging brings pain. To a great river, the water was wide and swift. On this side, they saw confusion and suffering. On the far side, they saw peace and clarity. Those who feared the crossing remained where they were, building homes, arguing, and competing among themselves. Those who had courage gathered wood, tied it together, and built rafts. They paddled with effort, faced storms and fatigue, yet eventually reached the far shore. There, they found serenity and joy, and they looked back with compassion at those still running about on the bank. This is the image of our spiritual life. To go beyond is to who live by virtue, who cultivate mindfulness, and who awaken compassion. They are the ones who, in silence and sincerity, dedicate every breath to understanding the nature of life. Dear listeners, as we sit here, listening to the Buddha's verse, may we remember that this teaching is not far from us. The river of samsara flows through our thoughts, our choices, and our actions, and our diligence and practice. So let us not run endlessly upon the bank. Let us pause. Let us breathe. Let us listen deeply to the stillness within us. Let us step into the river of understanding, carrying the raft of compassion, guided by the oar of mindfulness, and illuminated by the lamp of wisdom. When we reach the other shore, we will see that it was never apart from us. It was always within. Thank you for watching my video. Namo Amitabha. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share,